Good morning, flosstube. This is Gem Stitch here for my September-October update. It's been a very busy month this month, and unfortunately I haven't actually had that much time to stitch again. I had a Halloween costume to make that was unexpected and difficult and challenging for me, considering I've never even made a pair of trousers, but I'll talk about those later. So we will go straight into it. Last time I did a video, I was working on Glendon Place Sleepy Hollow, and I actually spoke to my husband about it. Being the month of October and Halloween, it would have really fitted in, although it wasn't my plan, it would have really fitted in to continuing to do it and hopefully complete it. And had I have not been making other things, I possibly would have continued with it just so that I would have had a nice finish for October, but I knew that I wouldn't get it finished, in which case then I would be neglecting another project that equally I knew I wouldn't get finished, and it just seemed like I might as well stick to the rotation that I'd actually planned for myself anyway. So, not that there's been much difference, but here is the pattern in question, and obviously I worked on this until the 1st of October. This is Glendon Place Sleepy Hollow. And as discussed in a lot of videos now, because of the way it's come up in the rotation, it's charted for 28 cashel linen, haunted by Picture This Plus. It also has one carom water lily in it, and Krennic and Mill Hill. The Krennic and Mill Hill I haven't changed. The colours I've done in DMC, except the black, which is Anchor Black, and the moon, which was for the meant to be the carom water lily, I've actually done in Glow in the Dark thread by DMC. The fabric is a sparklies fabric. It is a 28 count cashel linen. It's an opalescent, and I chose Winter Skies. So here is a picture. There isn't going to be much change, but here is a picture of where I was the last time you saw it. So I'll insert that here. And here's where I am at now. I mean, when I made the video, I had a guide as to where I wanted to be, and I did achieve that. I wanted the other border to come down and at least be in line with the bat that I'd done on the other side. But I managed to go a little bit further. So this is the bat in question. And I've managed to do that and start to come down into the border. So this is 28 count cashel linen in an opalescent. It's hand dyed by Sparklies, and it's in the colourway Winter Skies. I'm very pleased with the fabric, I love it. So this one will actually go away until next year. It will come up in my rotation next year. I've made sure that all the projects that I've started will be at least one focus piece for next year for a month. So and I'll continue to do that as I go through, and obviously start some new ones for the Stitch Mania too, following the Stitch Mania sale. So this one will be coming up next year now. Which leads me to the one that I should have been working on. I did work on it a little bit. Sorry about the rustling. I don't know if that's going to glare. Oh, not too bad. Which was Creation by Tempting Tangles. Now this is actually my largest works in progress, on the basis that it's not necessarily in size, but for the number of stitches, and also it contains speciality stitches that I haven't done before, so it just takes a bit longer for me to make sure that I'm getting it right. So my goal, when I told you in my last video, for the end of the year or the end of October, was to have this bit complete. So I was working on the storm, and that was almost full coverage, and it was quite a bit of stitching. It's split into 9 sections. So if I could have, at the end of this year, if I could have said, or really the end of October, because that's when it's my focus piece, if I could have said that I'd at least got this done, I would have been happy with that. So that's Creation by Tempting Tangles. And I'll insert a picture as to where I was last time you saw it, and I'll insert that here. And this is where I'm at now. So I'm not taking it off the roller because it is now the 24th of October, and you know, I think this will be one of my 2 days that I will most likely have left to stitch. I've got 2 weddings, Halloween, Christmas prep for work to do, and it's just been a bit of a mad month. So but because of where I was at in the pattern, it looks like I've achieved quite a bit already. So, but this was mainly done at the very beginning of October. So this is where I'm at now. So when I got down here, I actually thought the storm come down a lot further than it actually did. So I thought I'd have a lot more heavy stitching to do, but I didn't, which meant that when I got to move to the lettering goes by very quickly, which is why it looks like I've done an awful lot. So obviously I continued the lettering across. I've continued this band across because it was just, excuse me, in my opinion it was just easier to do that. I've done the same with the lettering here and here, and then I've moved on to the waves, and the waves will go all the way to the end here, and this border will continue to come down. I've just here where it's the O in God with the waves, that's officially halfway through the pattern. So I've just passed halfway through this pattern, and I'm really pleased. I mean, ideally I would have liked to have worked on it for this month, but there was 2 weeks where I hadn't picked up any stitching, and this is my first day and I'm so excited, but I knew I'd have to do a video, so I've really missed it. And I mean, each to their own, but obviously stitching is my relaxation and it's obviously very important to me. So yeah, I'm really pleased I can get back to it. But yeah, so I'll be working on the waves, and I'll just continue to work on them however far I can get in 2 days. I'll continue to work on them until I get, and then I'll do the border. But if I don't finish the waves, I'm pleased I actually reached my target, as in I wanted this top 3rd section to be completed, and it is. So that's Creation by Tempting Tangles. So I'm really pleased with that. Now, what's kept me away from my stitching? Well, obviously it's approaching Halloween, and my brother looked after my cat while I was on holiday, which was really sweet because my cat does like my brother. And it's his friend. And so I asked my brother, and it is a little bit of a journey, he has to drive to me to look after my cat for the couple of days that I wouldn't have been here. And he agreed, and then come back and said, and I said, oh, I would have picked him up a little treat, but I didn't really see anything, so I said, oh, we'll definitely treat you. And he was like, oh no, actually you could do me a favour. I have learnt from this now. I've got a Halloween party to go to, and I know what I want to go as, but I was wondering whether you could do this. But he didn't say, I was wondering whether you could do this. He said, I know you can do this. And I'm thinking, okay, well then this is going to be pretty simple. No. He wanted their satyr legs, as far as I'm concerned, like the Greek satyr, Pan and those sort of things, but they're called fawn legs as well. That's what he wanted. Now bear in mind, I've never even made a pair of trousers, so they have been the bane of my existence for over 2 weeks. Every day I've had off, I've been creating muscle mass and fur everywhere, and it's not my cat this time. It drove my husband crazy, and they're, you know, I finally finished them yesterday, so he needs them on Thursday. I haven't finished the hooves yet, but that's mainly just sticking them onto a pair of like black Pimp-Zoe pump things. But yeah, they've been a real labour of love, but not so much of the love on this one. But I hope that he's happy with them. They fit him better than they fit me, because although we're the similar heights, I've got longer legs than he has, so I made them to his specification. And I do have a picture. They're not finished in this picture because I'm thoroughly sick of the sight of them now. But what I'll do is I'll insert a picture here as to where I'd got to on them, and which is mainly the legs, which were the harder part. And then hopefully once Thursday's been and there's pictures of him all dressed up, I'll be able to show you a picture of what they actually look like completed with a towel as well. He wanted a towel. So I'll insert the picture that I do have, excuse the mess in the background and everything. It was literally just so that I could see what they look like on somebody. And my husband was being really unfair because obviously I pinned a lot of it into place until I sewed it into place, and he was like, I'm not putting them on with pins in them. It's like, it'll only scratch a little bit. Don't see what your problem is. So I had to put them on. So here is a picture of where I was up to a couple of days ago, but they are now complete. Thank you. So here's a picture. So yes, that's my story of my hairy legs. and I hope he likes them. When he tried them on, before I'd actually finished the top part of the body, and when he tried them on, they fit him really well, but then they was made to his spec, like I said, and so they don't quite fit me as well. But he was really happy with them, which is the most important thing. And it did make me feel better because, quite frankly, I could have thrown them around the place on a regular basis. It was a complete pain. And but I think we've managed to do it, and I think we've managed to pull it off, so it should be fine. There was a question on these project bags, which was, just to reiterate, this was the tutorial that I used from Vonna Pfeiffer. She's the Twisted Stitcher, and it was a great tutorial, and obviously I just changed the sizing. I've discussed that before, and I've changed the sizing and things like that for certain things, but I mean, just the basis of the tutorial that she does, then you can alter to whatever you want, bespoke. But I had a question about what batting to use. Now, I know a bit about cross-stitch fabric. I know linens, even weaves, Ada. I know the different counts. I know I'm getting more and more experience on the different companies, what they prefer to use, even if it's an over-dye, and these sort of things. That I'm comfortable with. As soon as it comes to, I don't know what cotton fabric is, but as soon as it comes to, that's not me. So I don't exactly know what the correct terms are. So I think the best thing for me to do is show you what I use, in the hope that it make it a little bit clearer. Now, I like this thickness. This thickness gives it a nice bit of, I mean, I've actually got stuff in this, but gives it a nice bit of padding, just enough. It feels protected. Obviously I wouldn't immerse it in water, but it feels protected, and I think that's the right thickness for a bag of this size. I have made smaller bags for like a 6-inch and an 8-inch Q-snap, and I find that you don't need, or I personally don't need as much padding, so in which case I just put a thin layer of interface on the fabrics, and in that way I find that that's just enough, because they're smaller bags. I mean, they're almost, some of them are half the size, so it probably doesn't need this amount of padding to hold projects. But this, because it's, I think anything this size and above, I prefer to have a little bit of padding. But again, it's personal preference. There's no right or wrong way. It's what you prefer for your projects. So I will show you it's fusible fleece. I get it from my remnant shop, and the guy is really helpful in there. But I don't know. Sometimes we call things that aren't things, really. They're something else. Which is why it gets a bit more complicated, because, you know, I could say, oh, this is what I call it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what it's called. So I thought it would be easier if I showed you, and I will write any information in regards to projects or any, I'll write that in the description box below. So I picked up some more when I picked up my brother's fur, so there is fur on some of this. And this is what it said. It says on it. So it's got H640, and I don't know whether you can see, but there's like little bobbly dots on this side. That's your glue side. You can get it where it's double, it's glued on both sides, but then you wouldn't be able to turn the project inside out. Possibly if you was going to use, can't even think what it's called, where you can put an edge on it, then you could do that, and that'd be even less sewing. Can't think what that's called. But yeah, so, but I prefer just the single glue side. It holds it into place. Equally, you could buy just this fleece. This is about how thick it is, so that I can, it's less than 1/4 of an inch thick. You could buy this fleece without the fusible bit, and you could do it and just pin it and then into place, and then when you sew your bags together. But this is just quicker, easier. I'm not experienced on a sewing machine, so anything for ease of what I need, then that is what I would go for. So hopefully that answers any questions in regards to what it actually looks like in person, because I know sometimes it can be frustrating when something's called something else, and it's difficult to find. But yeah, so that's actually what it looks like. And obviously doubled up, it's just the right thickness. So that leads me to my November work in progress, or new start. It'll be my last new start of the year, because I actually finished my Christmas piece, which was the Primitive Hare Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens piece, and although I haven't fully finished it yet, I did actually finish it in May of this year, which meant I get to start a new Christmas piece. Now my Christmas pieces run November and December, because I don't get 2 months worth of stitching in November and December. So that's why Christmas always has 2 months, like 2 months for me in stitching wise. So this is my Christmas bag that I made. I showed that in the last video. And thank you for all the lovely comments on the brooches, and especially lovely ideas. I like brooches. I know they're a little bit out of fashion as such, but I like brooches anyway. And I actually commented on one of the posts from my last video, and this lady said, great, that's a great idea, I'm going to be using that for with some of my mum's or nan's brooches and things. And that's beautiful because it's a project bag that's yours, it's got your creativity and your stitching in, and you're still carrying a piece of them around with you, which is a really nice, I like that idea, that's really sweet. I used a lot of my nan's brooches and my husband's nan in my wedding bouquet, because my wedding bouquet was all handmade silk flowers, because I had a vintage shabby chic English country garden wedding. And if you want to see a picture, I'll insert it in the next video. But it is quite a hard picture to take, like it's quite difficult to take a picture of because it come down, it was the teardrop shape. But yeah, so I'd made all these silk flowers and I had brooches, so as I was walking down the aisle it was really nice because those brooches gave it a little bit of vintage sparkle, but at the same time it was like it was from both sides of the family. So I really liked that idea, and that was important to me. And these project bags are great for things like that, or even buttons. My nan had a button jar. I used to love playing with the buttons and things like that, you know, and it's great to pass things down like that, and you could use them and incorporate them either on your works or your creations, or actually in your project bags. But anyway, back to what we were talking about. So my new start will be a little bit of rustling, sorry. I think Tipsy Stitcher actually showed this on one of her updates. I've had this pattern obviously for a while, intending to stitch it as a Christmas piece. So, and it's one of my favourite designers at the moment. So it's a Curé Batikure, and it's Sweet Christmas. So, and I'm choosing to stitch it on a fabric haul that I got from my husband for my birthday last year, and it is 32 count Belfast linen, and it's in silver raw, so it's an opalescent, but it's in the raw unbleached linen. It's got lovely opalescent on it. You can get this in just opalescent, where it's not that it's multicoloured, but it has different flecks in it. You can get it with a gold, and this is obviously the silver. You can see it's much whiter. But although this is a shabby chic style, I just thought that little bit of glitz would still work. Looking at this fabric, I will just say, I don't have a problem with my eyesight, but the flecks might be a little bit off-putting in the opalescent in this one. I think it might be because it's 32. I don't know, but until I start stitching on it, I won't know. So, but that's the plan, and this is a fat quarter. Now, the measurements for this piece, traditionally I'd like to leave at least 2 to 3 inches around the actual piece. All sides. To fit on a fat quarter, this is only going to have 1 inch either side here on a fat quarter, but I didn't want to buy, because of the way I have to buy this sort of fabric, I didn't want to buy like an excessive amount of fabric just to fit this piece on. So this piece will fit on here, but it's just a case of it won't have much of a border on 2 sides, on these sides. But my plan of action is, this is a Christmas piece, so whatever I intend to do with it, it will only ever come out at Christmas, so therefore I don't really want to frame it. Possibly turn it into a wall hanging. I've got an idea, but see how it goes, about maybe turning it into some sort of like Christmas sack, mini, and then you can put candy canes and things like that, like sweets, like a sweet sack. And I thought that'd be a nice idea, in which case I would add material anyway. So that's my plan of action with this one. So I am still going to stitch it on here, but I know that I'm not going to have an awful lot left either side. So I know that I'm taking a risk. Now on the back here, there is two recommended, it's all DMC except for two, and the threads that we used was from a company called the Red House by the Willow Tree, and it's shamrock threads, and you can find them on Etsy, and I like to support independent businesses, but I only needed two threads, and I would have still gone there. I would have still bought them, but when I was on holiday, I stayed in Wiltshire, as we've already discussed, and on the way back, my local L&S, which is 2.5 hours away one way, is actually the Patchwork Rabbit in Wiltshire, and we could slightly, it wouldn't have been much of a detour to go visit Carla at the Patchwork Rabbit, so that's what I did. So although I didn't actually buy from the independent store that was recommended, I did still buy from an independent store, so I do feel a little bit better about that. But I converted them over to Weeks Dye Works. I did that using the DMC, because it gives you, as expected, it gives you the actual threads that they've used, but then it says DMC alternatives, and I used those DMC alternatives in a conversion to try and find the Weeks Dye Works. So I'll show you what I've converted them over to, or will be. Cool, that's my stomach if you can hear it, I do apologise. It's also because I thought I would be more likely to use Weeks again then, no offence, but then the Red House by the Willow Tree. So I've bought 2 skeins of each because that covers all bases, and it's the same dye lots, just in case I completely mess up. So I believe it's, instead of Diabolic, I'll write it down, which was the Red House by the Willow Trees colour. I've gone for Garnet. So there is a slight variegation on this, but not too much. But if I hold it up against the fabric, then see, pretty. Very Christmassy. Very much like Garnet. And then the second one I went for, again I bought 2 skeins just to be sure, is the Blackberry. This has got more variegation in it than the Garnet, and it's more purpley, and I don't know if you can see that in person. Yeah, you can see that this is much more red. So I've switched them out for those, so I'll be using those in the pattern. They're in there a significant amount, pretty much on the Sweet Treats, where there's red colours, that's those, so it should be really pretty. I was concerned about the brown that was used in the little gingerbread sugar cookie things that was down the side, being that this is on raw, but actually I believe it's, let me just check. If I've got it. Well, I have got it, but yeah. But actually this is the gingerbread colour, so yeah, it will definitely show in the pattern. That was just a DMC, so that would be great, because when you change out the fabrics you have to be pretty sure that you don't want to get halfway through and then realise that one colour is, I mean, it's not the end of the world because you can just swap the colour for a dark shade, but I like to do a floss toss to just make sure that all the colours go. But yeah, so I've actually got a works in progress of Kure Batakure, which is the summer garden. Their charts are really clear. They're lovely charts to work with. She has actually got she's got 3 different phrases. So obviously I will do the English in the Sweet Christmas, but it is also charted in here to do Sweet Christmas in Italian and French. So gives you plenty of options, and obviously the Italian and the French looks just as beautiful as the Sweet Christmas on the top. So that will be my new start for November 1st, which is fast approaching, and that will be my focus piece until January 1st, on the basis that I don't get a lot of time to stitch in November and December. So it will barely be a month's worth probably. So that is my plan of action. I will do another video at the end of November. I'll leave it as, although this is quite late, but I'll leave it as late as I possibly can, because I don't do a video, or I'm not going to say never, but generally it just doesn't work out for obvious reasons, that if I can't stitch then I'm not going to really have time to do a video either in December. So I try to leave it for as long as I can in November, do a video in which, and then you'll see my New Year, New Start for January, and obviously the progress that I've made in November on that piece, and then we'll be into the new year. So I hope you all have a safe, fun-filled Halloween, and it's great watching all your videos. You keep me sane when I'm sewing hairy legs. And I will see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.